We have an injury update for Toronto Raptors starting point guard Dennis Schroder, along with the multitude of injuries the team has sustained. So we'll discuss that, including star player Zach Lavine being available for a trade, and some Raptors fans interested in potentially jumping in the sweepstakes, even though I'm trying to avoid it. But we'll break that down, including a Darko Rajakovic awesome quote following the win to the Wizards, and Lou Will giving some praise to Toronto and his time in the city. So lots of stuff to break down. Without further ado, let's jump to the first topic of discussion. The first thing we're taking a look at is a Dennis Schroder injury update. Now, this one is coming at after a few injuries that the Toronto Raptors have sustained. I mean, in the last outing, OG Anunoby was out with the sort of spliced hand, so I'm hoping he returns fairly soon, get some stitches or things along those lines. Gary Trent Jr. is also dealing with some lower body issues, so, the Raptors have dealt with some injuries, including, Precious's groin thing and Christian Koloko, and it seems like now another starter is out of the mix, is out of the lineup, as injury updates came for the Raptors-Bucks game tonight, and basically Giannis is probable for the game tonight with a calf injury, as well as Dennis Schroder now questionable as well with right knee soreness. Apparently, he twisted his knee in early last game and felt it a couple times throughout. So this isn't very good for the Toronto Raptors, given the lack of depth we have at the point guard position, and knees being one of the scarier parts of the body in terms of injuries, swelling, and things along those lines. So, if Dennis Schroeder's out for our next couple games against the Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks, that could hurt us pretty badly, because obviously Malachi Flynn has certainly stepped up, has really elevated his games in the eyes of a lot of Toronto Raptors fans, even though the stats haven't been that amazing, haven't been, eye-popping. His feel for the game, his comfortability out there on the actual court has been great. It's been awesome to see. So hopefully if he's in that starting unit, we'll see him get an opportunity to really shine and thrive. But really the thing that makes this interesting with Dennis Schroder being out is who's the backup point guard then at that point. We saw Marquise Noel getting called up, not getting any minutes with the Wizards, but getting called up or in the Wizards game, but potentially having his NBA debut or proper debut with some rotation minutes, in this game against the Milwaukee Bucks if Dennis Schroder is out. So definitely keep an eye on that. Obviously, Freeman Liberty also could potentially be fulfilling a role if he's called up into the rosters. So keep an eye out about who the Toronto Raptors end up playing in tonight's game against the Milwaukee Bucks, because it could be some pretty exciting surprises, with the two-way players potentially available with Dennis Schroder being out, if that's the case. So lots of stuff there. But one interesting piece, and I've received a lot of messages regarding Zach Lavine, because news came out yesterday from Shams The Athletic that basically Zach Lavine's available. The team and Zach Lavine personally are much more open to a trade. It seems like a deal is going to end up going down. Check out Bulls Digest specifically if you want more details on everything that's going on along those lines. But basically, the big report that came out is NBA teams are probing the availability of Bulls two-time All-Star Zach Lavine, as there's an increased openness from both sides about exploring a trade. The Chicago Bulls are in a weird position right now. They have a lot of top-tier NBA talent, a lot of stars, Nikola Vucevic, DeMar DeRozan, Zach Lavine. Heck, you could even lump Alex Caruso in there in terms of what he's able to provide on the defensive end. And obviously, Lonzo Ball has dealt with a bunch of injuries and things along those lines. But the Bulls are now probably going to trade away, tear things down. There's also reports saying that the Bulls roster is going to look a heck of a lot different come the next month. And Raptors fans are kind of eyeballing this because it seems like every star player that is on the open market, the Raptors end up getting involved with. And personally, yes, Zach Lavine is a great player. He's a guy that's a star that isn't too old, only 28 years old, so fits a Siakam sort of timeline a bit, averaging 22 points per game in the season. His 3-point percentage is down, but a career 38% shooter, so I'd imagine that will go up as the season goes along. But again, his contract, he's going to be making a lot of money until 2027, really, with that player option or more if he's going to opt out. So, it's an interesting piece, an interesting guy that could help the Toronto Raptors offense if we were to make a move, but we'd have to give up some serious salary cap in order to make that happen. And dealing away a guy like Pascal in terms of returning a Zach Lavine sort of guy, sure, you add more of a scoring punch. Zach Lavine is more of a natural scorer than Pascal Siakam, but I personally look at that as a downgrade, especially on the defensive end. And just Pascal Siakam's already, I wouldn't make a level move. You know what I mean? Pascal's honestly been on a little bit of a higher tier than Zach Lavine over the course of their careers, even though Zach Lavine has higher highs in terms of scoring outbursts and things like that. Pascal Siakam, I definitely claim to be a better player than Zach, but he's also been with the team, been with the organization and things along those lines. Maybe you say, hey, the star player is under contract for longer, but again, if you're going to be dealing out that type of money in future seasons, I just give that money to Pascal Siakam. That's what I'd rather do. And then, if you tried to amalgamate pieces, give up picks for Zach Lavine, I don't think it really makes sense. And apparently the Sixers, the Lakers, among other teams, are interested in Lavine. So I don't think the Raptors should make a deal. I don't think it's smart to make a deal. Even though Lavine's a great player, would help our offense if we could just plug and play. But, the Raptors, for what they'd have to give up, doesn't really make sense to me. But let me know what you guys think. I had a lot of people asking about that. But we have also a pretty cool quote coming from our head coach, Darko Rajakovic, following the Raptors' major comeback win against the Washington Wizards. Now, obviously, shocked me. Definitely my concussed brain. I'm feeling a lot better today. I meant to say this at the beginning. Appreciate everyone in the nice comments, talk about the concussion, and care for my brain power. It's coming back smoothly. Definitely feel 1,000 times better today than I did a couple days ago. But following that Washington Wizards comeback win for the Toronto Raptors, Darko Rajakovic had some interesting comments about the return, basically saying that, hey, Darko told the group that at half that he didn't expect them to win, but he expected them to play with joy and have more competitiveness. So, some very Ted Lasso-esque quotes there. Friendly competition, building up, all that type of stuff. I don't know. I just like the vibes of the Toronto Raptors here at this point, and the power of friendship and in playing fun and things along those lines ended up actually getting the Toronto Raptors a win. I saw a funny quote, I think on Twitter, when underneath this tweet, but the basically, go out there and have fun ended up being an effective strategy for an NBA head coach, an NBA team out there in an actual NBA game. Even though the Washington Wizards are definitely one of the league's worst teams, it is what it is. But closing a game on 22-1 run is pretty huge to the Toronto Raptors. So I enjoyed that quote that came out from Darko Rajakovic. Shout out to Darko. Loving the vibes of this Toronto Raptors team. But the final thing we're discussing in this video is Will, goodness gracious, speaks out on his time in Toronto again. Brain's still a little bit fuzzy in terms of things rocking out there, but basically Lou Williams came out and said that if you know anything about Toronto, they roll the red carpet out for you. And when I had that, I can't imagine it was and so when I had that, I can't imagine how it was when they won the championship. I envy that. One of the greatest years of my career. I had a ton of fun. And the quote's coming from Paul George's podcast. Paul George echoed this sentiment about how the Raptors fans are great, especially to their players. Obviously, Paul George's co-star down there with the LA Clippers is Kawhi Leonard, who definitely had the reddest of carpets laid out for him in Toronto the year he won the chip. Helicopters flying around him, Kawhi and dine, all that type of stuff. So, Lou Will, nice to see him make some comments, because he's had some weird comments in the past, few years about the Toronto Raptors, talking about customs. No one wants to be doing that. Don't want to go to Toronto and stuff. Even though when he was with Toronto, spoke highly of the team, said he wanted to stay there for the future. Masai didn't really do that. So he's been back and forth on his comments regarding Toronto, but it's nice to see him say something positive regarding the team, regarding the organization, in a podcast there with Paul George. But lots of stuff happened with the Toronto Raptors. Big game against the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. Mean the world to me if you guys hit that sub button. We got the live watch alongs with Marcel rolling right now, and then obviously as try to get that vid up following the game against the Milwaukee Bucks. But you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.